So, if you break your arm, modern medicine is like incredibly satisfying.
Oh, absolutely. It's very straightforward.
Right. You
But
go into a clinic, a machine takes an X-ray, and you get this clean binary answer.
yeah, you see that jagged white line right on the film.
Exactly. The bone is broken, so the doctor puts a cast on it, and, 6 weeks later, it's totally fixed.
It is pure mechanical engineering.
It really is. And I feel like it makes us feel like we have this total control over our biology.
Well, it creates a false sense of security, really. I mean, we project that binary fix-it mentality onto everything.
Which works terribly when you step outside of acute trauma.
Yeah, exactly.
Like what happens when you age, or when you have this nagging pain in your lower back that just won't go away.
Suddenly, that X-ray machine is completely useless.
Right. You might take a scan and it shows like some mild disc degeneration. But so what?
I mean, practically every 40-year-old has that.
Yeah. You enter these murky waters of chronic decline, systemic inflammation, and just, well, biomechanical breakdown.
And this is precisely where the conventional medical system often just completely fails the patient.
Because they're using the wrong tools.
Exactly. The tools designed for an acute crisis are being deployed for chronic deterioration.
Which just leads to a frustrating loop.
Oh, totally. A loop of misdiagnoses, dismissed symptoms, and just massive overprescription.
So today we're taking a deep dive into a medical insider who recognized that exact failure.
It's a fascinating case study.
It really is. We are examining the career and the philosophy of a doctor who reached the absolute peak of the French hospital system. I mean, the very top of the institutional mountain.
And then he deliberately abandoned it.
Yeah, just walked away to reinvent how we survive aging, how we recover from injury, and how we maintain our physical autonomy.
We are dissecting the methodology of Dr. Christophe Delong.
And what makes this particular exploration so unique is that we aren't just looking at a biography.
Right, we have a really diverse stack of sources today.
Yeah, we've got his writings, his clinical protocols, and material from his educational initiatives like Connexa Formation.
Through all of these, he has laid out a highly specific blueprint.
And our mission today is to extract that blueprint for you.
Because it applies to everyone.
Truly. If you're listening to this while sitting at a desk, your body is probably adapting to that chair in ways Dr. Delong actively warns about.
Oh, for sure.
Whether you're trying to figure out why your knee hurts when you run, or maybe you're navigating the overwhelming stress of managing care for an aging parent, his playbook is just profoundly relevant.
But to understand the methodology, we really have to look at the architect first.
Let's do it. Where do we start?
Well, Delong's foundational medical education completely sidestepped the modern trend of hyperspecialization.
Right. He started at the Faculté de Médecine Necker-Enfants Malades in Paris.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
Even for someone outside of France, that name carries a lot of weight.
Yeah, it's basically the crucible of French pediatric medicine, isn't it?
It is. And when you train there, you aren't just seeing kids with scraped knees.
Right.
You are exposed to the most severe congenital anomalies, complex metabolic disorders, and severe early life traumas.
So you're looking at human biology before it has even fully formed.
Exactly. You're trying to predict how a structural defect today will manifest, say, 20 years down the line.
Wow. And he proved his technical competence really early on. In 1991, he passes the Concours National de l'Internat des Hôpitaux de Paris.
Which is essentially the gauntlet.
It's brutal, right?
Oh, it's a high-attrition national exam that completely dictates the trajectory of a French doctor's life.
So he clears this incredibly hard hurdle. He essentially has his pick of specialties.
Yeah, he could become a neurosurgeon, a cardiologist, you name it.
But he chooses physical medicine and rehabilitation, or rééducation et réadaptation fonctionnelle.
And I'd argue that choice is the key to literally everything he does later.
How so?
Well, think about the general trajectory of medicine over the last 50 years or so. We have become totally obsessed with silos.
Right, like a neurologist only looks at the nervous system.
Exactly, and a rheumatologist only looks at inflammatory joint diseases.
And an orthopedic surgeon focuses almost entirely on the carpentry, right? Like the bones and the hinges.
Yeah. It's like treating a house like a series of isolated plumbing fixtures.
Oh, I like that analogy.
The plumber doesn't care that the electrician wired the wall wrong, and the roofer doesn't care about the foundation.
And as a patient, you just end up bouncing between these specialists.
Exactly. You have knee pain, so the orthopedist gives you a shot,
But the knee pain is actually caused by, like, a nerve impingement in your spine.
which the orthopedist isn't even looking for.
Wow.
Physical medicine and rehabilitation is that rare specialty that actively resists those silos.
Because you have to look at the whole picture.
Right. To manage a patient's physical handicap and oversee their rehabilitation, you are forced to master the interactions between neurology, rheumatology, orthopedics, and traumatology.
You have to stand back and look at the whole house.
You really do.
Which totally explains what happened in 1994. I mean, looking at the sources, his academic credentials in 1994 are just wild.
It's a very telling year.
It's like he realized traditional medicine still left blind spots in his understanding of the body's architecture.
So what does he do?
In one single year, he gets a university diploma in sports traumatology, another in spinal pathology, another in medical podiatry, and his capacity in sports medicine and biology.
All simultaneously.
Yeah, all at once.
The inclusion of medical podiatry alongside spinal pathology is the real giveaway there.
Break that down for us, because on paper, a doctor going back to school to study feet seems almost like a demotion.
It sounds strange at first, yeah.
Right. Why does a guy who wants to treat complex back pain care about podiatry?
Because gravity dictates human anatomy.
Okay.
Let's look at the actual biomechanics of walking.
Yeah.
When your foot strikes the ground, it doesn't just rest there.
Right. It absorbs the impact.
Exactly. Your arch has to collapse slightly to absorb the shock. That's called pronation. But if your foot overpronates, or if the mechanics of your heel strike are misaligned due to, say, poor footwear or a structural issue,
That force doesn't just vanish.
right, it travels up.
Up the leg.
It travels right up the kinetic chain. The misaligned foot forces the tibia, your shin bone, to rotate internally.
Oh, wow.
And that internal rotation travels up to the femur, pulling the knee out of alignment.
Which then affects the hips.
Exactly. The femur connects to the pelvis, so now your pelvis is tilted anteriorly, and your pelvis is the foundation of your lumbar spine.
So a flat foot literally torques your lower back.
Yes, it does. The lumbar vertebrae are suddenly being subjected to sheer forces they were never designed to handle.
So your back muscles just freak out.
Pretty much. Muscles in your lower back will reflexively tighten to act as splints, trying to protect the spine.
And over years, this causes chronic, debilitating lower back pain.
But if you go to a standard doctor, they will just look at your back.
Right. They might give you muscle relaxants or suggest surgery.
But they are treating the smoke, not the fire.
Man, that makes so much sense. So by studying podiatry, sports traumatology, and spinal pathology all together, Delong built this comprehensive map.
He understood that you cannot fix the fourth floor of a building without checking the foundation.
Yeah. You can't treat a tennis player's shoulder trauma without understanding how their spine transfers power from their legs.
And you can't understand any of it without the foundational sports biology of how tissues heal under stress.
So, armed with this complete architectural map of the body, his clinical career officially launches. And the timeline is incredibly deliberate.
It follows a very clear progression.
Yeah. From 1995 to 2000, he's a full-time hospital practitioner at the Hôpital National de Saint-Maurice in pediatric orthopedic rehabilitation.
So he starts at the beginning of the human life cycle.
Right.
He is observing bodies that are actively growing, forming their neuromuscular habits.
Then, from 2000 to 2004, he moves to the Hôpital Corentin-Selten, working in adult orthopedic rehabilitation.
Moving to the middle of the life cycle. This is where he sees the accumulated traumas of the workplace, the repetitive stress injuries, and, the consequences of those early developmental issues manifesting in midlife.
And finally, from 2005 to 2022, he serves as the chef de service, the head of department at the Assistance Publique Hôpitaux de Paris in geriatric rehabilitation.
He essentially follows the human condition completely through time.
But wait, in 1999, right before moving to the adult ward, he does something else.
Right, the management degree.
Yeah, he gets a master's in hospital management from APHP and Mise de Paris, studying the human and financial management of massive health systems.
He realized that understanding the biology of the patient wasn't enough.
He had to understand the business side.
He needed to understand the machinery of the institution delivering the care.
See, I struggled to buy this traditional narrative of the doctor rising to the top to fix the system.
How so?
Well, becoming a chef de service in the Parisian hospital system gives you immense top-down power.
Oh, absolutely.
It is the pinnacle of prestige and security in French medicine. If you possess this incredibly holistic view of biomechanics and you have the management degree to understand the budget, why don't you just fix healthcare from the inside?
It's a fair question.
Why spend 17 years as a department head just to walk away from conventional medicine entirely?
Because a chef de service manages a hospital wing, they don't rewrite the economic realities of national healthcare. When you run a department at that level, you see the inherent limitations of an institutionalized, reactive model.
You mean the fact that the system only kicks in when something is already broken?
It's deeper than that. The entire financial incentive structure of modern hospital systems globally is based on acute intervention.
Okay.
Hospitals are essentially repair shops.
Right, like we were saying earlier.
They are exceptionally good at taking an elderly patient who has shattered their hip, performing a high-tech surgical replacement, and stabilizing their vitals. But they are profoundly ill-equipped to do the slow, time-intensive, preventative work required to stop that patient from falling in the first place.
Because prevention doesn't bill well.
It doesn't scale in a hospital setting.
I mean, to prevent a fall, you need to do what? Asses their walk.
Yeah, you need to assess the patient's gait. You have to understand their fear of falling,
Right.
review their medications for dizziness side effects, and maybe even visit their home to remove tripping hazards.
And a hospital doctor just doesn't have time for that.
A hospital doctor has a 15-minute consultation window.
Wow. Yeah, you can't do all that in 15 minutes.
You absolutely cannot rebuild a patient's complex biomechanical and emotional reality in 15 minutes.
So he just hit a wall.
Delong likely realized that the institution itself, no matter how well managed, was fundamentally misaligned with the concept of long-term autonomy.
Which totally explains his dramatic career pivot.
The exodus, basically.
Right. After 40 years of studying and practicing in these elite high-stakes environments, the sources state he stepped back from the conventional exercise of medicine.
He completely rebrands himself.
Yeah, he drops the traditional clinical title and becomes a conseil expert sport santain, a health sports expert advisor.
It is a radical shift in perspective.
It is.
He removes himself from the rigid doctor dictates to patient hierarchy and positions himself as a collaborator.
And the sources describe his new methodology as 3.0, but old school.
Which is such an interesting phrase.
Right. He adopts telemedicine, video conferencing, and remote coaching. That's the 3.0 part.
But the core of the practice relies on deeply traditional concepts.
Like companionship, time, and active listening.
Just look at his intake process.
Yeah, let's talk about that. When a new patient consults him, whether in person in Paris or over a secure video link, he demands that they bring every single medical file.
Every single one. The x-rays, the MRIs, the blood tests.
He wants to see the entire history of interventions.
Yes, but he doesn't just want the paperwork.
Right. He explicitly requires the patient to bring their doubts, their fatigue, and what the French sources call their loss of confidence.
That is so key.
He encourages them to voice every single theory they have about their own pain. I'll quote the text here. Même si cela vous paraît farfelu, even if it seems crazy.
This is an absolute masterclass in treating the neurology of chronic pain.
How so? I mean, isn't he just playing therapist?
Not at all. The separation between physical pain and psychological distress is a myth perpetuated by those medical silos we talked about earlier.
Okay, so pain isn't just physical.
Pain is an output of the brain. Let's say you have been dealing with a mysterious, sharp pain in your hip for 3 years.
Sounds awful.
You've seen 5 specialists. They do scans, find nothing structurally devastating, and tell you to take ibuprofen and rest.
Which makes you feel like you are losing your mind.
Exactly. You develop deep anxiety around movement.
Because it hurt.
Right. You start practicing fear avoidance behaviors. You consciously alter your gait to protect the hip, which subsequently throws your lumbar spine out of alignment.
Causing more pain.
But more importantly, your nervous system becomes hypervigilant.
Like it's on high alert.
Your brain begins amplifying the pain signals because it perceives your own body as a threat.
Wow.
The trauma of being dismissed by the medical system actively exacerbates the physical deterioration.
So when DeLong asks for their crazy theories, he's diffusing that nervous system response.
He is validating their lived experience.
That's huge.
By laying everything out flat, giving them the time that the hospital system refused to give, he is actively lowering their systemic anxiety.
Because he knows you can't just jump into physical therapy if they're terrified.
Exactly. He knows that until you restore a patient's confidence in their own biomechanics, Prescribing a physical therapy exercise is completely useless.
They will simply perform the exercise with protective tension and injure themselves further.
Exactly right.
That makes perfect sense. Treating the human is a prerequisite to treating the hinge.
Wonderfully put.
And he doesn't just do a long initial consultation and vanish. The sources outline a strict follow-up cadence.
The cadence is critical to the methodology.
He mandates seeing the patient every 3 weeks for several months.
And in between those sessions,
He tells them to send photos, notes, and specific fears to conserver le lien to maintain the link.
this is where the behavioral science of his approach really shines.
The 3-week cycle is highly strategic, right?
Very.
Why 3 weeks? Why not weekly? Or, I don't know, every 6 months?
Well, think about human behavior. 6 months is way too long. The patient loses motivation, hits a plateau, gets scared by a new twinge of pain, and just abandons the protocol.
Makes sense.
Wow.
Why not every week?
1 week is often too short to see genuine physiological adaptation in the tissues, which can lead to frustration. I did the exercises, why don't I feel better?
Right, healing takes time.
3 weeks is the sweet spot. It is enough time for neuromuscular adaptation to begin, for a new walking pattern to feel slightly more natural, but short enough to provide a rigid accountability structure.
And the phrase the sources use to describe this is companionage.
Such a great word.
It literally translates to apprenticeship or companionship.
It evokes a medieval guild where a master craftsman works shoulder to shoulder with an apprentice.
It implies a shared journey, not a transaction.
Exactly.
But this is where I see a major contradiction.
Oh.
How do you scale companionage? How do you build a deep, empathetic apprenticeship through a webcam?
I see what you mean.
The tech industry loves to talk about scale, but intimacy doesn't scale. Isn't telemedicine the exact opposite of old-school companionship?
I would argue that in this specific application, telemedicine is the only way to facilitate true companionship.
Wait, really?
Yes, we have a preconceived notion that technology isolates us. But think about the friction of traditional medical care.
The waiting rooms.
Exactly. To see a specialist, you have to take a day off work, sit in traffic, wait in a sterile room for an hour, all for a rushed 10-minute interaction.
It's an inherently stressful environment.
Telemedicine removes that friction. The technology allows for frequency.
Ah, I see.
If a patient tries a new exercise on a Tuesday and feels a sharp pain, they don't have to wait 3 weeks or go to the emergency room.
They just pull out their phone.
They can send us a secure message or a quick video of their movement to Delong. He can review it, adjust the angle of their pelvis remotely, and ease their anxiety in real time.
The technology enables an ongoing micro-corrective dialogue,
It is an old-school level of intimacy facilitated by modern bandwidth.
which radically changes how we should view our own healthcare interactions.
It really should.
If one of the top former hospital directors in France believes the most powerful tool for healing isn't a surgical robot, but rather frequent anxiety-reducing dialogue, we need to completely rethink how we advocate for ourselves in a doctor's office.
We must stop self-censoring. We have to bring the totality of our mechanical and psychological history to the practitioner and demand the time necessary to unpack it.
But practically speaking, Dr. Delong has the same 24 hours in a day as the rest of us.
He does.
He can only maintain this intense companionage with a finite number of patients.
Right.
If you truly want to disrupt the system and promote autonomy on a massive scale, you have to codify the knowledge,
You have to build a curriculum.
which explains his vast library of writing.
And it is vast.
He recognized that before you can teach people the correct mechanics of health, you have to aggressively deprogram the nonsense they already believe.
The myths.
The sources explicitly state he targets the 100 ideas reçues, the 100 preconceived ideas or deeply ingrained myths of the general public.
And he and Connexa Formation use these exact principles to train physical therapists and healthcare professionals. But Delong took the message directly to the consumer through his books.
It is an act of intellectual demolition.
That's a good way to put it.
Let's look at his book on back pain, because lower back pain is virtually a universal human experience.
Almost everyone deals with it at some point.
He goes straight after the classics. He attacks the idea that I have back pain because of bad posture.
A huge myth.
He dismantles the myth that back pain is purely genetic, and he specifically targets the Jim Bro gospel. More muscle equals less pain.
Let's unpack that specific myth because it is incredibly dangerous and incredibly common.
Oh, I hear it constantly. You complain about your lumbar spine, and a personal trainer immediately tells you that your core is weak.
Right. just do more planks, deadlifts, and crunches to build a muscular corset.
Exactly. But that's wrong.
From a purely biomechanical standpoint, blindly adding muscle to a misaligned spine is a recipe for a blown disc.
Really?
Let's go back to the architectural metaphor. Imagine your spine has a slight curvature, or perhaps you have a pelvic tilt from sitting at a computer for a decade. Your body is highly intelligent. To prevent the spine from collapsing under gravity, your central nervous system recruits specific back muscles to stay permanently contracted. It builds an internal splint.
So those muscles are already exhausted, just keeping you upright.
Precisely. They are constantly working. Now, you walk into a gym, load a barbell with heavy weights, and command those already overworked, chronically tight muscles to contract forcefully to build strength.
Oh, yeah.
You are not fixing the underlying mechanical imbalance. You are taking a bent axle on a car and strapping a more powerful engine to it.
That sounds like a terrible idea.
You are dramatically increasing the compressive forces on the intervertebral discs.
You're accelerating the degeneration.
Exactly. DeLong points out that without a highly specific mechanical assessment to release the compensatory tension and realign the joints, aggressive strengthening is essentially self-harm.
He applies this same rigorous physiological teardown to sports, too.
Yeah, his book on sports myths is fascinating.
He addresses things like running is the best sport, or sports make you lose weight, and sports lower blood pressure.
People just assume these things are universally true.
He even addresses the deeply ingrained fear parents have that lifting weights will stunt a child's growth.
The fear regarding children and weightlifting is a perfect example of a misunderstanding of basic cellular biology.
Why do people believe it?
The myth assumes that heavy weights will physically crush the epiphyseal plates, the growth plates, at the ends of a child's long bones.
Right, the idea that a squat will compress the femur and the kid will just stop growing.
But bone is not dead wood. Bone is dynamic, living tissue.
Right.
Have you heard of Wolff's Law?
I think so, but remind us.
Wolff's Law of bone adaptation states that bone density and structure adapt to the mechanical loads placed upon it.
Okay, so it gets stronger when you stress it.
Exactly. When a child engages in controlled, properly coached resistance training, the mechanical stress signals osteoblasts the cells that build bone to increase their activity. The traction of the tendons pulling against the bone actually stimulates the growth plates, resulting in thicker, more resilient bones and highly strengthened connective tissues.
So he replaces a culture of fear with a culture of physiological literacy.
Exactly.
But, the myth that absolutely blew my mind was his takedown of swimming.
Oh, the backstroke.
Yeah, the idea that swimming backstroke cures back pain. Le dos crawlé. I have heard doctors, general practitioners, tell older patients for my entire life, your back hurts, go to the pool and swim backstroke.
It is perhaps one of the most egregious examples of a blanket prescription failing a specific pathology.
Why is it so bad? I thought swimming was zero impact.
It is low impact, but let's look at the anatomy of the spine during the backstroke. To keep your face out of the water and reach backward with your arms, your spine must go into a state of continuous active extension.
It arches backward.
Yes. Now, if a patient has a herniated disc that is bulging out the back of the spine, extension might actually feel good.
Okay, so for them it works.
Yes. It can help push the disc material back into place. But what if the patient has facet joint syndrome?
What's that?
The facet joints are the small, interlocking hinges at the back of each vertebra that guide spinal motion. In older adults, these joints often become arthritic, compressed, and highly inflamed.
Ouch.
If you take a patient with severe facet joint compression and force them to aggressively arch their back in a pool for 45 minutes,
You are literally grinding those inflamed joints against each other.
you are actively worsening the exact mechanism of their pain. You are destroying the cartilage.
That is wild.
DeLong's mission is to eradicate this medical laziness. You cannot prescribe a movement without diagnosing the specific structural pathology of the individual.
And he extends this hyper-specific approach to demographics that have historically been ignored, too.
Yes, his work on women's health is incredibly important.
One of the standout sources in our stack is his book dedicated entirely to women and sports. Le sport à la portée de toutes les femmes.
It's a landmark text, really.
He covers integrating physical activity into contemporary life, distinguishing between healthy training fatigue and systemic exhaustion.
He goes into a lot of detail.
He really does.
Yeah.
He dedicates sections to pregnancy, the physiological return to sport postpartum, and the specific biomechanics of aging for women. The sources note this book resonated so strongly it was translated into Portuguese as Mulher Contemporânea,
The necessity of this book cannot be overstated.
because the medical field has kind of ignored women's specific sports needs.
Completely. For decades, the entire field of sports medicine, exercise physiology, and even pharmacological research has operated with a massive blind spot.
Wow.
The default physiological model in textbooks was a 70-kilogram, young, white male,
Medical science essentially treated women as scaled-down versions of men.
which completely ignores the profound endocrine and biomechanical realities of female biology.
Give me an example.
Take pregnancy, for example. The body releases a hormone called relaxin, which dramatically increases the laxity of the ligaments in the pelvis to prepare for childbirth.
Right, to allow the hips to open.
But relaxin doesn't only target the pelvis. It affects ligaments globally.
Meaning a pregnant woman's knees and ankles are suddenly far less stable.
Exactly. Her entire proprioceptive map, how her brain tracks her limbs in space, changes as her center of gravity shifts forward.
So a generic training program would be terrible for her.
If a trainer just applies a generic male-centric strength program to a pregnant or newly postpartum woman, ignoring the altered ligamentous laxity and the compromised integrity of the pelvic floor, the risk of catastrophic injury is immense.
DeLong's dedication to mapping these specific realities, the shifting hormones, the unique recovery demands, the transition through menopause, it really illustrates his refusal to accept generalized medicine.
He demands precision in everything.
He applies that same precision to nutrition, too. He's co-authored works that break down the specific macro and micronutrient requirements for endurance athletes versus strength athletes.
Focusing on adaptogenic foods and the cellular fuel required for tissue repair.
Because nutrition is the raw material, right?
Yeah. You can optimize a patient's movement mechanics flawlessly, but if their body lacks the amino acids and micronutrients to rebuild the micro tears in the muscle, the system remains fragile.
So we have this incredible intellectual output. Books, training programs, widespread media presence demystifying the body.
He's very prolific.
But here is the pivot that I find most fascinating. Scaling knowledge is great. But when you're dealing with his ultimate specialty, geriatrics, aging, and the preservation of autonomy knowledge isn't enough.
Education has its limits.
You can teach an 85-year-old the perfect exercises to prevent a fall, but if their apartment is a structural hazard, the education is meaningless.
Information cannot fix environmental and logistical collapse.
Exactly. This realization is what drives him out of the realm of pure medical theory and directly into the living rooms of his patients.
This brings us to his highly localized, hands-on initiative.
Yeah, this is where we see the fusion of his clinical expertise in geriatrics and that master's degree in hospital management.
He stops operating as just a physician and becomes a structural engineer for the patient's daily life.
The sources outline that Dr. Delong operates as a coordinator d'autonomie personnel, a personal autonomy coordinator.
And he operates in a very deliberately restricted geographic area.
He serves the western suburbs of Paris, Versailles, Saint-Cloud, Le Chesnay, Vaucresson, Boulogne-Billancourt, and the 16th arrondissement of Paris.
The geography is highly relevant here.
By those specific areas.
These are historic, affluent municipalities characterized by older populations and classic Asian architecture.
Oh, like multi-story buildings and narrow staircases.
Exactly. Bathrooms not designed for mobility aids. It is the ultimate testing ground for the concept of aging in place.
So what does this coordination actually look like? It is a hybrid model. He provides high-quality human aid. He recruits and places auxiliaire de vie caregivers who handle the granular acts of daily living.
They prepare meals, clean, do the laundry, run errands, and provide physical support for washing and dressing.
Those granular acts are the dividing line between independence and institutionalization, aren't they?
100%. If a senior cannot safely get out of a bathtub, or if they lack the cognitive organization to ensure they are eating nutrient-dense meals, a hospital admission is inevitable.
He pairs this human care with technology, utilizing advanced 247 integrated telemonitoring to ensure safety.
But the true genius of this operation, and this is where the hospital management degree really flexes its muscle, is how he navigates the suffocating French bureaucracy.
Right. He takes over all the administrative burdens for the families.
And the sources specifically highlight that this service operates de gré à gré.
We need to explore the gré à gré model deeply because it is a masterstroke of administrative hacking.
It really is.
Let's break it down. If my elderly mother lives in Paris and needs daily care, the standard procedure is that I call a home care agency. Why is DeLong's model different?
Because the traditional agency model is financially and ethically broken.
How so?
If you hire an agency, the agency employs the caregiver. You, the family, pay the agency an exorbitant hourly rate.
Yeah.
The agency takes a massive percentage of that fee for overhead and profit and passes along a minimum wage to the caregiver.
Which creates a terrible dynamic.
It guarantees high turnover, burnout, and low quality of care.
Because they're overworked and underpaid.
Exactly. And the family is bleeding money for inconsistent service.
So what is de gré à gré?
It means direct agreement. It flips the legal structure. Dr. DeLong's service acts as a recruiter, a medical vetter, and a coordinator. But legally, the family becomes the direct employer of the caregiver.
The family is essentially incorporated as a micro-employer.
Mm-hmm.
But why go through that legal hassle?
Because the financial benefits under French labor and tax law are staggering.
Really?
Yes. By utilizing the direct employment model, the family cuts out the predatory agency markup. The caregiver can be paid a much more competitive, dignified wage, which ensures loyalty and high-quality care.
That's great for the caregiver.
But more importantly, the family preserves their eligibility for massive state subsidies.
The sources mention a 50% tax credit.
Yes, a 50% tax credit on all expenses incurred for employing home help.
Wow.
Furthermore, they can fully leverage the APA, the allocation personnalisée d'autonomie.
What's that?
It's a state allowance specifically designated for elderly individuals experiencing a loss of autonomy.
But the paperwork must be a nightmare.
It is. The bureaucracy required to set this up, draft the employment contracts, and file the tax declarations is incredibly complex and deters most families.
So DeLong just handles it.
He steps in as the interlocutor unique, the single point of contact. He manages the labyrinth of paperwork, effectively hacking the system to deliver premium, medically vetted, continuous care at a heavily subsidized cost.
Let's just pause and look at this juxtaposition.
It's quite something.
This is a man who is the chef de service of geriatric rehabilitation of the APHP. He has written authoritative textbooks.
He's at the top of his field.
And yet, his pitch to a family in Versailles isn't a complex medical procedure. His pitch is, I will make sure your mother's laundry is done properly, I will personally vet the person helping her shower, and I will execute the legal contracts to secure her tax credits.
It is the ultimate expression of medical pragmatism.
It's like a 4-star Michelin chef, abandoning his global restaurant empire, coming to your private kitchen, organizing your pantry, and teaching your grandmother how to safely chop an onion.
That's a brilliant analogy. It shows a complete lack of ego.
Because ego doesn't prevent hip fractures.
Ego doesn't prevent malnutrition. DeLong understands the cascade of functional decline.
Right.
Once an elderly patient is moved out of their home and into an institution, they lose their spatial memory. They lose their agency.
They just decline faster.
Muscle atrophy accelerates because their world has shrunk to the size of a hospital room.
Mm-hmm.
Cognitive decline spikes due to the lack of familiar stimulus.
It's heartbreaking.
By building a heavily managed, subsidized microinfrastructure within their private apartment, he is fighting the most crucial preventative battle in medicine.
And as global populations age and massive nursing home conglomerates face crisis after crisis, this hyper-local, decentralized model of heavily coordinated aging in place feels like the only viable future.
It might be.
But as hands-on as this work in Paris is, it is just a microcosm. DeLong isn't just focused on fixing the present. He is actively engineering the macro future of global health.
He is operating on multiple timelines simultaneously.
Through his consulting firm, Dr. Christophe Delong, he advises on global health strategies.
He champions the World Health Organization's ICOPE program, Integrated Care for Older People.
He also consults for corporations, specifically on prevention, primary prevention, and employee well-being.
That corporate consulting is a significant paradigm shift.
Why is that?
For a century, the corporate world has treated employee health purely as an insurance liability. You pay for sick leave when the employee breaks down. Bringing in a biomechanical and geriatric expert for primary prevention implies that companies are finally recognizing that investing in the physical architecture of their workforce is an economic necessity.
But the most revealing aspect of his futurist vision is his writing on technology.
His blog is fascinating.
It reads like a Silicon Valley think tank. He writes extensively about artificial intelligence in healthcare, the deployment of 4G and 5G networks, the Internet of Things, the IoT, which he calls the telemedicine of things.
He explores augmented reality, robotics, and the deep ethical implications of these tools.
The connection between his local home care service in Versailles and his writings on 5G is direct, isn't it?
Very direct. The 247 telemonitoring he currently uses to keep seniors safe is merely version 1.0.
Wow, okay.
When he writes about IoT and 5G networks, he is laying out the technical requirements for the next evolution of autonomy.
Let's explore that. How does 5G keep an 80-year-old safe in their living room?
Let's imagine the smart home of the near future, powered by the bandwidth of a 5G network.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
It's not just about a camera in the corner. We are talking about invisible ambient sensors embedded in the floorboards or integrated into the fabric of clothing.
That sounds like sci-fi.
These sensors continuously monitor the microgait of the patient.
So it measures exactly how they walk every single minute.
Yes. The sheer volume of data produced by continuous monitoring is too massive for a human doctor to review.
That makes sense.
This is where artificial intelligence becomes crucial. The AI processes the data stream in real time.
Okay, so what is the AI looking for?
Let's say the AI notices that over the course of 3 days, the patient's stride length has shortened by precisely 2 centimeters, and they have begun to drag their left foot slightly in the evenings.
Changes that the patient themselves wouldn't even notice.
Exactly. The AI cross-references this mechanical shift with the patient's medical history.
And what did it find?
It identifies that a dragged foot and shortened stride in this specific patient heavily correlates with a silent urinary tract infection.
Wait, really? A foot drag means a UTI.
In the elderly, yes. It causes systemic weakness and dizziness, drastically increasing the risk of a fall.
That is incredible.
The system alerts Dr. Delong on a Wednesday that his patient is at an 80% elevated risk of a catastrophic fall by the weekend.
So the intervention happens before the crisis. DeLong calls the caregiver, adjusts the medication, and the fall never occurs.
The AI acts as a predictive, invisible safety net. It allows the senior to live with the illusion of total independence while being protected by an imperceptible medical-grade web of data.
This philosophy completely shatters the tribalism we see in tech and medicine today.
Oh, it really does.
On one side, you have the purists, the old-school doctors who think algorithms are destroying the soul of medicine and we just need more hands-on healing.
And on the other side,
You have the tech evangelists who think human doctors are inefficient meat machines that should be entirely replaced by chatbots and robotic surgeons.
DeLong occupies the radical center.
He really does.
He demands the deepest, most intensely emotional confessions from his patients. He requires them to bare their souls and their fears in a highly personal apprenticeship model.
But at the very same time, he advocates for placing predictive algorithms and ambient sensors in their bedrooms.
Because he sees absolutely no contradiction between high-end digital surveillance and profound human empathy.
And that is precisely why he writes so extensively about the ethics of augmented reality and AI.
Exactly. A pure tech developer sees a sensor as a triumph of engineering.
Right.
A doctor who has spent 30 years holding the hands of dying patients views that same sensor strictly through the lens of human dignity.
That is a crucial distinction.
If the technology enhances autonomy, he deploys it. If the technology creates distance, alienation, or breaches privacy without mechanical benefit, he rejects it.
The ethics dictate the engineering, not the other way around.
Perfectly said.
Which brings us to the core truth of our deep dive today. From the intense pediatric wards of Necker through the hyper-competitive gauntlet of the French hospital system.
From collecting a master map of biomechanical diplomas to managing geriatric wards.
And ultimately abandoning the institutional peak to orchestrate home care and consult on global AI health protocols.
The through line of Dr. Christophe Delong's career is radical, relentless pragmatism.
He refuses to respect the artificial boundaries of a medical specialty or an administrative system if those boundaries fail the patient.
He will use whatever tool actually works.
Whether that tool is a deep, unhurried conversation about a patient's hidden anxieties, a complex legal maneuver to secure a tax credit, a book dismantling a dangerous gym myth, or the bandwidth of a 5G network.
The machinery is always subservient to the mission.
So how does this blueprint apply to you? Why did we spend this time deconstructing one doctor's massive body of work?
It's a question everyone listening should be asking.
Because no matter where you are in the life cycle, the murky waters of physical decline are waiting.
They come for all of us.
Whether you are dealing with a sports injury that won't heal, navigating the biomechanical changes of pregnancy, or desperately trying to keep an aging parent out of a nursing home, you need a strategy.
You need to stop accepting reactive care as the default.
Exactly. Demand time from your practitioners. Do not be intimidated by the rushed 15-minute consultation.
Bring your whole self to the appointment.
Your research, your fears, your crazy theories about your own body, question the deeply held common sense myths of the fitness industry.
And embrace the reality that maintaining your health will require both the highest tech tools available and the deepest human emotional honesty.
I think we've covered incredible ground today.
I want to leave you with a final thought to examine, building on the core theme of DeLong's life work.
Go for it.
From sports traumatology to geriatric rehabilitation, his entire philosophy is anchored by one concept: autonomy.
The ability to move freely.
Yes. To avoid the hospital, to dictate the terms of your own living environment.
Autonomy is the ultimate currency.
Look closely at your daily habits. The way you sit at your desk, the repetitive ways you move, the minor pains you are currently ignoring or masking with medication.
What should they ask themselves?
Are the physiological and lifestyle choices you are making right now actively compounding into a future of resilient total autonomy? Or are you slowly, unconsciously outsourcing your structural integrity to a reactive medical system that is only designed to catch you after the damage is done?
And perhaps the most immediate action you can take today. What is one deeply held myth about your own body's limitations that you need to completely unlearn?
Because until you clear the bad architecture, you cannot rebuild the house.
That is exactly where we will leave it. The diagnostic landscape of the human body will always be complex. It will never be as simple as a binary X-ray.
No, it won't.
But with a holistic understanding of your own mechanics, a refusal to be dismissed, and a strategic embrace of both empathy and technology, you can maintain your autonomy indefinitely. Thank you for joining us on this custom deep dive, presented by Dr. Christophe Delong in Connexa Formation. Keep questioning your assumptions, keep demanding better answers from the system, and keep diving deep.